Welcome back, guys. In this video we're going to be taking a look at prop types. Prop types are really useful for when we want to do some checking around what we're passing into our components. So as you can see from our last example, we're passing in a name and we're passing in an age into our component hello. Now if we were to pass in, say, let's just go name equals 12 here. As you can see, we don't get any error messages in the console, but it does actually render the component. So obviously in a statically typed language you would be able to specify the type that you are expecting, and you can do that in TypeScript. You can use React with TypeScript to do this kind of thing. But if you're not using a statically typed language or you're not using TypeScript, then the only real option that we've got in React is to use something called PropTypes. Now PropTypes won't actually stop you from rendering what's on the screen, but it will give you some nice error messages to basically give the developer some insight as to what they're passing in and how it might be wrong. So as an example, I've gone ahead already and installed this package. I just did that already by typing npm install PropTypes, or you can do similarly yarn add PropTypes, like so. Once that's been added, we can add it to our script. So we can go prop types, notice the capitalization, and we can do prop types here. Now once we've got this set up, if I just switch back to our browser, we can see we're not actually using it at the minute, so we're getting this warning. But what we can do is on the actual component we can just type prop types and then pass it an object. Now this object will contain each key for each variable that you want to pass in. So the first one that we want to pass in is name, and we want to make sure that this is a string. And the way that we do this is we type PropTypes.string. If we save that, you can see we're straight away getting this error message below. It says failed prop type because we're passing in a number down here. So if we correct this, and as you can see, it's now showing this correctly. One thing to note, when this is a number like this, you do get this error message, but it doesn't stop the rendering. As I was saying earlier, it's not stopping you from doing this like a statically typed language would do, but it's just giving you this error message below just to let you know that, hey, you might want to pass something else in here. So let's change this back to what it should be. Once we've got this back, the next thing that we need to do is maybe we want to cater for the fact that maybe they won't even pass anything in. So if they don't pass anything in, we don't get any error messages, but obviously it looks a bit funny up here because it's not rendering our name out. What we can do is we can just tack on is required onto the end here. And then once we've done this, as you can see, it says failed prop type. It's basically not, it's undefined. And that's one thing to note, is that if you don't pass in anything, it's going to come through as undefined. So let's get back what we were. So as you can see, that's now fixed that. Let's go ahead and add the next one. So the next one is age. Again, we want to use the PropTypes package. This time though, we want it to be a number. And the number is also going to be required. So we can add it like so. And as you can see, that now passes. If we pass it anything else other than a number, like, so if we pass it the number 3 but as a string, then as you can see it's going to fail again. You can also do some slightly more advanced things. So say if we've got a constant defined and we call this details, and we're just passing through an object here, we're just assigning an object. And then on here, say if we have the name, and then we want to provide the age here. And say if we want to pass this through in a slightly different way, so you would say something along the lines of, okay, we're going to pass details through, and it's going to equal the details. So we're basically passing this through. Now obviously this is failing the prop types because this is now wrong. The first thing I need to do is change this. So this, we're no longer accepting name and age as individuals. We're basically accepting just details. Once we're including this using destructuring, we can now do details.name details.age. I'll just delete the prop types for a moment just to make sure that we're working again. And as you can see, we're working. We're getting this warning about prop types, but we're going to use this shortly. It's just saying that we're not using it, so that's why we're getting the error message. So the next thing that we need to do is we can go hello PropTypes. Wait a second. And then this time, we're not accepting individual items. What we can say here, we can say details, PropTypes, and then you can have object. So essentially this is doing the same thing as before. The only difference is that now we're expecting an object. So if I just save this, as you can see, we get no error messages. And that's because we're providing the actual object. However, the problem here is that there's no details about what the actual types are within the object. So we don't go into any particular detail. There's another way around this. We can do exactly what we've done here, but instead of object, we can use shape. Within shape, we pass it an object, and then within that object, we can specify name, and then we would say PropTypes string is required. And then the second one would be age, PropTypes number is required. If we save that, we get no error messages. But let's change something. Let's see what happens if we change this to a string. We get this invalid prop type. Again, it's because it's expecting a number there and it's getting a string. So let's change this back. And then the same up here. If we were to change this to, say, 4, again, failed prop type. Again, notice that we're still rendering the page. It's not actually preventing us. It's not like a statically typed language. That's really important to remember. Similarly, down here, if we were to pass anything other than an object, so a string, we'd also see an error message here. And obviously nothing is rendering because it can't extract the values from the object because what we're passing in isn't actually valid. Now, the only real issue with prop types is remembering to actually write them. It's quite easy to create an object and then completely forget that you've got to actually add your prop types to them. You won't get any errors if you don't specify prop types, and you won't get any errors if then you pass in the wrong types. So you need to be sort of super diligent about passing these and creating these prop types. One thing that we can do is that when we save our code here and then our project runs through the transpiler and it compiles it down this way, we can actually change this slightly so that it looks for the prop types, and then if there are any missing prop types, then we can go ahead and throw an error at that point. I'll probably do another video about how to set that up when we start talking a bit more about Webpack later on down the line. Some other types that we have that we can check against in the prop types package is we have obviously number, which we've seen in action. We've seen object. We've got all these other ones. You can use these to kind of check collections and things. So you could have a collection of objects and you could say that you want everything in that to be one of these. You've also got shape, you've got string, and you can basically check all sorts of things. You can also check that it's a function. So you could do something along these lines. So you could say you want to make sure that what's passed in is an actual function. And you can also check for things like nodes and elements if you're dealing with things like the DOM or JSX. And that's really all that there is to prop types. It's very important that we check what we're passing into our objects and into our components. So this is a nice way of doing it. Like I've said before, it doesn't actually stop it from rendering. It doesn't make React a statically typed system. It doesn't do anything like that at all. But it will actually give you a warning if you're passing in the wrong thing. So that's it for today, guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.